When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see the ugly duckling or do you see the beautiful swan? Welcome to Time Out with PC. I'm Pastor Cherie. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be talking about coping with rejection. In our world today, it seems like it's becoming a trend, be rejection. So I want to use the story, this famous story that all kindergartners usually have read, and it's the story of the ugly duckling, and every kid knew it by heart. Remember, the ugly duckling was born in a poultry yard, and he didn't look like a chicken or a duck. He was rejected by both sides. He didn't fit in anywhere. Does that sound familiar to you? He didn't look right. He didn't act right. He couldn't do what the others did. He was different. So like humans, the poultry gang couldn't abide anybody that wasn't just like them. Where we can learn a great lesson from this nursery story. In fact, they hated him because of his difference. And finally, the barnyard made it miserable for that poor ugly duckling. He ran away from home. And everywhere he went, he was rejected. He was laughed at and criticized. He was rejected by everyone. You know, reminds me, the Bible talks about Jesus is the cornerstone, and he was rejected by his generation, by the chief priests, by everyone. So we're in good company. Jesus was rejected too. But once this ugly duckling caught sight of some of these beautiful swans, he only saw himself as ugly. So he saw them and thought, I'm just as ugly as I can be. But after a season had passed, he was walking along and he saw his reflection in the water, and he realized that he wasn't a duck at all. He was a beautiful swan. And so he just swam off and joined his tribe. And that's where he actually belonged. And he forgot his miserable past and just had a glorious time being who he was created to be. Like Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. I know you have faced some type of rejection when you have identified with Christ. So maybe you can identify with a period of rejection. Maybe you're in one right now. But who was the first person to ever feel rejection? It was Adam. So Adam trusted Lucifer and cut off his relationship with God. And that's when he felt rejection. And then he was ashamed and he went and hid. And so when you're ashamed, when you're rejected, you want to hide and avoid contact with other people. So rejection is not new. In the first book of the Bible, we look at Cain, who was rejected by God because his offering was not up to God's standards, and God tried to coach him on what would make him acceptable, his offering. So rejection is real. And sometimes people are rejected because of unusualness. Your appearance, maybe you're too smart, too stupid, you live in poverty, or you're too prominent, or maybe you're just a nobody, and that makes you different. Unusualness of any kind can cause you to be rejected. To be accepted in this world, a person has to be conformed and be like everybody else. But you were created with a specific identity and purpose. God doesn't want you to be like everybody else. So you can analyze where the rejection is coming from and really rise above it. Number two, people are rejected because of nonconformity. When a person and their convictions and they refuse to go along with trends and the crowds, you're letting yourself up for rejection. For example, maybe you used to be somebody who was partying, drinking, doing drugs, other things like that. And then you found a relationship with Jesus and you stopped all these things. Well, you can be sure they're going to throw you under the bus. They're not going to accept you anymore. They're going to reject you because you're different from them now. You're not the way you used to be. You're not fun anymore. When you refuse to act like others, you have trouble with them. And when you become an individual and begin to think and act on principle, you'll be rejected. So this is a decision you must face. This is the cost of discipleship. Matthew 7:13, Jesus said, "Broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many go that way." So the world system has a sameness about it. And if you're going to be different, you'll have to learn to cope with rejection. Number 3, people are rejected because of their culture. Foreigners, people from other countries are immediately suspect in our country, and because of various cultural backgrounds. Now listen to an episode in Acts chapter 2, verse 7 and 8. It was the day of Pentecost, and here's what they said about the disciples. They said, "These guys are from Galilee. They're unlearned, too stupid to speak all these different languages." So culture can cause rejection. I see that all the time. So those who have a root of superiority, who think that they're better than everybody else, are looking down on others, forfeit the unique contribution that you might have because of being different. And that's a good thing. So being careless or neglectful is also a form of rejection. Many marriages, businesses, partnerships, and even our family members and our children pay a heavy price when they've been neglected. Human meanness and sin cause many believers to face rejection because what's in their hearts and the choices they've made are different from the crowd. So Jesus shows us how to overcome rejection. Remember, he was rejected by Peter 3 times. Now, that's a story on Peter's side and on Jesus' side. But Peter said, "What glory is it to be buffeted for your own faults? But when you do well and suffer for it, take it patiently. This is acceptable with God." So we need to move in close to Jesus. We need to face the problem and analyze what's going on. This is coping with rejection. And take action, and the Holy Ghost is going to help. Remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Thank you for joining me today, and I would like to ask you if you would like, subscribe, and please share this podcast with others so we can get the word out.